Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining in. As always, this is Cynthia Lee, certified life coach, and
Irma Ilustre, certified life coach as well. So I was really excited about our topic today, and I was all like, "Oh no, it's not going on. Why is that?"
I know.
I did want to continue with our what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about self-care. And I thought that we could talk about boundaries this week because I feel like that's such an important part of self-care, and I feel like we don't do it as well as we could. I know I still struggle with it all the time. So
Yeah,
um, so I thought, yeah, that we could like talk about it because it's one of those things.
it really is. And for this topic of self care, we are going to be talking about the power of saying no.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. That's all that boundaries is about. Boundaries is about being able to say no to some things. That way you could say yes to other things.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times with saying no, we get nervous or we get scared on the other person's reaction to when you do say no to something. And that will kind of make us feel that guilt and make us want to say yes when this in actuality it's not something that we really, really want to do. Um, and I know when I do say no, I do feel like I have this power back, and that I'm doing something that I really, really wanted to do. Um, and I know we have some like topics that we want to touch on. So go ahead and let us know what the topics are.
Okay. Well, so yeah, so you touched on like the feelings that we get when we do say no, right? There's always that guilt, like feeling bad about what the other person is going to think, that you're
Mm,
disappointing them or failing them in some way. I think, and that all kind of goes along with like people pleasing, which I feel like for a lot of us, like that's how we've been conditioned, right? That's how we grew up, and it's still something that's very, very much a part of I think being a woman, right? That wanting to please people and make people happy. You know, we like doing
yeah.
that. But then I think that does lead to the guilt. And I think the other piece is FOMO, right? That fear of missing out. Like if I say no to
Mhm.
this, I'm gonna miss out on something big, right? So um I think that's really like the two pieces of what makes setting boundaries and saying no really hard, because we don't want to disappoint other people. We
Right.
also want to disappoint ourselves. So,
If you think about it real quickly,
mm,
toddlers, their
mm,
favorite word is no.
yes,
If they don't want to do something, they say no. If they
yes,
don't like something, they say no.
mm,
So with I think conditioning throughout life, it gave
mm,
us like this little bit of insecurity too on saying no. But at some point we had that confidence and we had that power.
yeah,
And it just got lost. And I think it got lost with like dealing with issues in life,
mm,
society,
yeah,
guilt, lack of confidence. So
mm,
we all had that power at one point,
yeah.
you know.
Well, and then if you think about it though, like when our toddler or our kid or our teenager says no,
Yeah.
I'm like, are you saying no to me because like that you don't say no to your mom, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the expectation, right? That we don't want people saying no to us. So we don't want to say no to other people, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. So, I do think about that for my own children. Like if I ask them to do something and they say no, like do I respect that? Or do I say, too bad, you got to do what I say, right? So
Yeah.
I tried really hard, especially with my girls, that if they say no to something, like if I want them like to dress up for a special occasion and they're like, no, I don't want to wear that, then I always feel that struggle of, okay, I should respect their no and say, okay, you can go wear whatever you want, even though I'm like, I can't believe that's what you want to wear. Um, so I think part of that is really making that shift so that way they don't lose that feeling comfortable with saying no.
Yeah.
Because I know like that's like like for me, that was something that's been really hard um to to get past, right? If I want people to be comfortable with me saying no and be comfortable with saying no myself, then I need to foster that in my children, and I need to respect that in my children. And that's been really hard because I have been conditioned to just say yes. So when other
Yeah.
people say no to me, I'm like, what? What? You say no to me? To
Yeah.
me? And I have to step back and say, that is okay. That is okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's definitely a struggle out there,
Yeah.
because what would happen if you say no to someone? Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen when you say
Yeah.
no? Like, they might
And
get upset about it, but they'll get over it.
yeah, I think conditioning that power in our kids, especially our daughters, is really,
Mhm.
really important.
Yeah.
Um, and I have been trying to teach my daughter, like,
Mhm.
it's okay to say no if you don't like something.
Yeah.
And I always felt like, at one point, like, am I pushing this too early on her? She'll be 5 in May,
Hmm.
but it actually paid off. So I'm telling you something like real personal. So at her daycare, there's a guy that works there,
Uh-huh.
and he actually tried to touch her inappropriately.
Oh
And
no.
she actually screamed out, "No, I don't like it, and I don't want you to touch me."
Good for
You
her.
know,
Oh my God.
yes, and she told me about it,
Uh-huh.
and I felt really good that she had that in her because I don't
Right.
want her to think, "Hey, mommy's dropping me off at daycare, so this is what's
Yeah.
supposed to happen at daycare." But
Hmm.
I taught her, like, it's your body. If you don't like something, say no. Nobody's supposed to do this, and it's not
Hmm.
right. And so I really believe, like, instilling that in
Hmm.
our children can
Hmm.
help make them stronger because even with that little no that she did, it was a big no.
Yeah, it was a
You
big
know,
no. That's a big no.
exactly, and it made her feel good, and it gave her some power over, her body, and
Yes.
she saw my no,
Mhm.
there's actions that came after it, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
stopped, I told my mommy about it, he
Mhm.
got fired.
Good. That's good. I was gonna say.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Report
I
it
mean,
to me.
it is like it's so powerful, and then as adults, somehow, like, it got lost, and it's like, okay, if I say no, am I going to lose my job? If I say no, then is this going to happen? Like, what repercussions will happen afterwards? And there's has to be, like, that conditioning back into adults, especially women, so that
Yeah.
way we know, like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Especially when it, like, stresses you out,
Mhm.
and you're overwhelmed, or when you're already doing too much, or you're tired and sick and it's affecting your health. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that issue of having body agency, we see that a lot in in rape culture, right? When a woman says no to a man making advances on her, like she immediately becomes the bad person, right? Well, what
Yeah,
what were you wearing? What were you doing? What
exactly.
on? And it's like, no, like I could wear and do whatever I want. Like he needs to control himself and it's on him. And there's definitely that idea in society, and
Yeah,
even just with your story there, like just thinking about for like I know for my own kids, like one of the things that that I really struggled with was like in our culture when you're saying goodbye to people, like you need to do a hug, a kiss, you need to do this whole thing. And my girls totally went through a phase when they did not want to do that. And so
yeah,
it was like, you know, okay, I want them to respect their body. I want them to, to be okay setting that boundary. And so it was so difficult with my parents when I'm like, oh, like they don't want to hug and kiss you goodbye. Like, can they just wave to you? My parents felt so hurt. They were like, what? Like, what's wrong with us? And I'm like,
yeah,
you just gotta understand. And now, they're all like, hugging, lovey dovey.
yeah,
But that, for that moment in time, and then thinking to myself now, like, okay, if I had forced them to hug and kiss, to say goodbye, like I'm basically saying your no doesn't matter. And that was not the message that I wanted to send to them. So I think, I mean, even like what happened to your daughter is a big thing. And you must be so proud of her
I
for being
am.
speak her mind, but
Yeah.
even these little things like, saying goodbye to people, or
Hmm.
um, like just like doing stuff for school, like do they feel comfortable? If they don't feel comfortable, like am I going to force them to do it? Or am I going to say, okay, I respect that, and like you don't have to do it this time, but this is something that's important. So let's think of a compromise for how you can do this activity, because there's like, I don't want them to be fearful and not do things.
Right.
But yeah, so there's definitely that that balance, right? Um,
Yeah.
but you're right, because also too, like going back to what you just said about how it not only affects you emotionally and mentally, but also physically.
Physically, yes.
The things that we do and we experience, it affects us physically also. I can't imagine, like I do know, like all of the times when I said yes to something, and then thinking back later, I'm like, I should not have said yes to that, and I felt like physically sick. I'm like, oh, I should
Yes.
have done that.
I know
And
there was
feeling
a
of
period in my life that, I kept saying yes and yes and yes. And
mm,
not just in my personal life, but with work too. It's like, hey,
mm,
can you handle this? Yes, I can. Or can you do more of this? Yeah, I can.
mm,
Oh, can you do this? Yes. And then I actually developed like heart palpitations, and I had to go see the cardiologist.
yeah,
And I also started having alopecia, and like patches of my hair would fall out.
yes,
And and I was just thinking to myself as I'm looking at my son, like, I
mm,
can't do this to myself. Like, I have to take back control. I
mm,
have to say no when it's just too much. I have to
mm,
say no when it's overwhelming.
mm.
And once I started doing that, like, my heart was beating normally. I grew my
Yeah.
hair back.
Your hair looks great.
Yeah. And I started feeling so much better.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And I
Mm,
want to say also that I think it was not Kim Kardashian, not
mm.
Courtney. Um, what was the other sister?
I don't know.
One of the
Kendall.
Kardashians was having the
Oh,
issue as well.
okay.
And they
Okay.
were seeing
Chloe.
the
Chloe.
Chloe, yes, it was Chloe. And she was actually seeing the cardiologist. She was also getting migraines as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember her saying that, once she started taking back control, she started learning how to say no. And she
Mm-hmm.
started learning how to speak her mind and not hold stuff in,
Mm-hmm.
that her body started feeling better as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of power when you,
Yes.
take that power back of saying no, that
Mhm.
physically, you just feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think part of it is like the big time in my life when I know I had a hard time saying no was when I was in college, and that was a time when I just wanted to do everything with everyone because I didn't want to miss out. I came
Yeah.
from a pretty sheltered family, and so college I was like, yes, like I'm free. I'm going to be doing all these things, and I did try to do all these things, so that fear of missing out is really, I mean, that is such a strong feeling, So my friends are like, "Oh, do you want to go and do this?" Yeah, yeah, I'm going to go do this, and and I did those things, like going out with my friends, partying, whatever, at the expense of my education, and
Yeah.
I failed a class because I decided to go out and party, thinking, "Oh, I can, just do it after, like after I've come back from the bar, I could like write up this paper and then hand it in." Of course not. It really didn't work. So yeah, so I ended up failing a class, and it really got me. Well, after, like, my dad was like, listen, what's going on? But it got me thinking, like, okay, like I'm saying yes to these, things that are fun, that are like not but that won't really help me reach my goal of graduating college with a
Yeah.
degree and then being able to get a good job, right? So when thinking about what things do we say no to and what things do we say yes to, I think the guiding principle has to be, what's your goal?
Yeah.
Is your goal, what's your goal with your job? What's your goal with your family? What's your goal with for yourself? For your personal goal, the work goal. So really having those goals in your mind will help you decide whether you want to say no to something or whether you're going to say yes to that, because we can't do everything.
No,
you
we
know
can't. I
we
can't.
are finite people, right? Like we don't have like an infinite amount of energy, an infinite amount of time. Like that's just that that we don't have that ability. So we really have to be choosy, right?
You do, and then you also
Nothing wrong with
should
that.
understand the yes traps.
Hmm.
To where you feel like you're trapped into saying yes.
Yeah.
So I know that. So here's a couple things. So
Mhm.
you should understand, like, how do you feel when you say yes when you really want to say no. So
Mhm.
if you put these little things in perspective, it will help you realize that I need to say no more.
Mhm.
And it's like, when you think about when you say no, how do you feel?
Mhm.
I think if you write these down, that it can better put stuff in perspective. Because I know for me, when I actually see stuff, because I'm a visual person, a visual
Mhm.
learner,
Yeah.
I'm able to do an accurate comparison. So when
Mhm.
I do this and I say yes to something that I don't want to do, I feel like this.
Mhm.
When I say no, this is how I feel. And then
Mhm.
I just compare it. And I know, like, in the beginning, it may feel weird saying no. But then I think if you write down how you feel after the fact,
Yeah.
then that can help you also to realize that I can say no if I want to. Um,
Mhm.
I can say no with, like, no repercussions,
Mhm.
and I feel so much better about myself, and
Yeah.
then also knowing what your goals are, what your priorities are, understanding what is most important to you,
Yeah.
and how your time is managed, especially time management. Like, can I actually fit this in, even if I wanted to do this? Knowing that is very important as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right about that. Like you do have to be kind of grounded in your reality, like grounded in, where you are in life, what you want out of life, and how it's going to make you feel in the end, right? There are times when, yeah, you might have said no to something and then thought, oh, like I really wanted to do that and not
Yeah,
this, right? Because when you do say no to something, you are saying yes to whatever the alternative is, right?
exactly.
It's not an outward verbal yes, like this is what you are choosing to do. So it is a yes. Um, and I think you really hit it the nail on the head when you're saying like you have to know what your priorities are. You have to know
Yes,
what is your guide, and what direction are you going to know which path you're going to take. um
exactly.
the other thing that you said that I think is also an important piece is that saying no, it's like a muscle,
It
right? When
is.
you use it, then it's going to get easier and easier the more you use it. Okay. And it doesn't, I'm not saying like use it all the time, because that's ridiculous. We're not going to be saying no to every single thing, especially if it's something that we want to do, you know
Yeah.
so like one of the things I thought that maybe we can talk about was like how to say no, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes just like saying no to someone, it does feel harsh, right? It feels like,
It
oh,
does.
it feels rude. It feels like, um, what I tell my kids is, if someone asks you to do something and you're not sure, you could always use your mom as an excuse and say,
Exactly. Yeah.
have to talk to my mom, and then you can go back and be like, my mom said no. And I'm totally fine with that. I'm like, go ahead, use me. And just, if you don't want to do something, I'm happy to be the bad guy and say,
Yeah.
the mom says no. But as an adult, I feel like, oh, I can't be like, let me ask my husband, let me ask my kids and see if they say yes, you know. So we do have to take a little bit of ownership of our no, right?
Yeah.
And like what are some phrases, what are some ways that people can say no without feeling that it's kind of like rude or like really
Yeah.
harsh.
So I wrote down 10
Okay.
possible
Yeah.
ways that you could say no.
Yeah.
So before I go into possible ways, because I know you're talking about, like having excuses and then work on saying no.
Mhm.
Um, so aside from the kids, I do know that, so I am single,
Mhm.
and guys approach me a
Mhm.
lot. And um
You're
at
so hot, we know
you
it.
know So what I found like in the beginning was like, okay, well, I don't really want to say no, I don't want to give you my phone number, so let me give you a fake number.
Yeah.
And then as the older I got, I'm just like, no, I just know it's not gonna work. And
Yeah.
then it comes like all the other things to try to make me feel bad. And I actually
Mhm.
had one of my guy friends tell me, um, don't be so hard and just say no. Just
Mhm.
smile and say yes and give it a shot. I was like, well, I know it's not going to work, so there's no point in it. And I think that just stems back with just being confident and being okay with saying no. Like for the most part, I understand that everybody's going to talk about you.
Mhm.
No, not everyone's going to have something nice to say. So once you come to that realization that you can't please everyone,
Mhm.
then saying no does become easier,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So one of the helpful techniques that I've written down
Mhm.
was just a simple no, but thank you for asking or thinking about me.
Mhm.
The second one is something else. So you just say something like a simple, I'm doing this already.
Mhm. Right.
The third one in this category, I have two. So buy yourself some time when you're unsure on
Mhm.
how to give a proper response. So you say something like, I'm away from my desk. Can I call you later when I
Mhm.
have my agenda in front of me? Or you could say, well, I'm in the middle of something. I'm in a tight deadline. Can we get back with this tomorrow or the next day? And the next one is like a deferral.
Mhm.
Um, you say something like, this week is crazy for me, or this month is crazy. Can I wait till next week or next month or something like that? So you just defer it out and
Mhm.
hope that they forget about it. And then transfer. So transfer is good if you want to maintain a relationship and
Mhm.
still be helpful. So you say something like, you suggest someone else that can do it,
Right.
or you say I don't feel comfortable, or I'm
Mhm.
having an experience right now, or and somebody else may be able to help you with
Mhm.
this. And then the next one is return the no.
Mhm.
And this is good for people who want to take advantage of your good nature.
Mhm.
You just say I can't do it right now, but I can show you how to do it yourself. you
Right.
know the other one is requesting priority,
Uh-huh.
and it's good for when you're dealing with like your boss or when you're at work.
Mhm.
You can ask for the priority. So which one of these do you think I need to focus on first?
Mhm.
Or if I do this, what would you like me to stop working on?
Mhm.
So
Right.
what can I just kind of transfer? And then the other one is just prioritizing yourself. This way you can stay in control of your life and you feel good
Mhm.
about you.
Mhm.
And you could say something like, I will love to help you, but I'm focused on this right now.
Mhm.
Or I don't have the time for anything except this at this moment. So
Right.
those are little helpful techniques that I kind of jotted down. So what do you think?
I really love them. I think like the no, saying no, and I can help you, and I can give you something else or give you an alternative. I like that. That's the one that I use a lot.
Yeah.
So saying, oh, I don't think I'm the right person for this. Let me introduce you to someone who could help you, or maybe let me ask this other person if they'd be willing to help you with this.
Yeah.
Even with my kids, I'm like, no, you can't have candy right now, but you can have an orange, you can have, you can have another type
Yeah.
of snack. And that, that definitely softens the blow. Like, you can't have this one thing, but look at all these other things that you would have if
Yeah, exactly.
you know um and it works with the grown-ups too, right? When you're saying, okay, I can't do this, but you have all these other alternatives. I can help
Exactly.
you figure out how to do it yourself. I can have someone else help you with it. I can't do exactly what you want me to do, but I can do this little piece, if that would be helpful to you. Um, and that's, that's saying yes, but on your terms. Um,
Yes.
I think that's the thing that we forget about is that when someone asks us to do something, it's not a demand. It's not a, I mean, even if it's coming from our boss, like there's definitely leeway there to be able to compromise.
Yeah.
So your
You can
example
set your
of
priorities. Well, is
right,
this a
exactly,
priority now? Or do you
right,
want me to take this off so I can work on this? So
right,
it's
yeah.
saying no, but in a very professional way.
Professional way, exactly, and and showing your boss that you are being responsible, you're not taking on more than you can handle.
And you can manage your time.
Right, exactly, because you don't want to fail, right? And to
Exactly.
have too much on your plate, that's the recipe for like going down, and that has definitely happened to me when I've taken on too much, and then I'm like, missing appointments or
Hmm.
double scheduling and not realizing it, and then saying, okay, I need to be able to push some things off of my plate and and be able um to say no, like say, okay, I need to stop this now and move on, like put it to the side and do something else.
Yeah.
um I was talking with another coach during our training. It was like one of the practice sessions, and we had this conversation about like having too much on your plate, and one of the things that he said, which I was like, this is such a brilliant analogy, is that you have your buffet of life, right, and you're coming up there with your plate and you want to put everything on your plate, and you think you just have that one plate to put everything on, and he's like, but do you have just that one plate? And I was like, wait, do I? And he's like, it's a buffet. You could bring a second plate, and put it to the side and save it for later. And I was like, a second plate. I was my mind was blown. I was like, that's so brilliant. I can have a second plate. I could put stuff on that second plate and put it on the side to save for later.
Yes.
And that totally, I was like, oh my gosh, how come no one has like I've heard that buffet analogy, and it's always like you have your one plate, like you put something on, something else falls off the edge. And he's like, no, just bring a second plate. so so for me, that's been really helpful, knowing like, okay, like I can't do this right now, but I could put it on my
Yeah.
second plate and take care of it later, or, have that same experience later, or, or saying that to someone like, I can't help you with this right now,
Yeah.
but, I can do it next week, or I can help you with it when I have this time carved out. Um, yeah. So that to me was, in terms of having boundaries, like we do have this finite amount of time and energy, right, but that we could totally delay, and put it on another plate, and save it for later. um
Yeah.
so
That ties a lot into time management as well.
yeah,
And I'm not saying like, 'cause I know some people, they have their day like programmed to the T, like everything is written down. I wake up at this time, I do this at this time, I do this at this time. And trying to squeeze an extra thing in may give them anxiety,
hmm,
so I think, when you say no, it's good to know like what is on your plate, but also to prioritize your time properly and to have that little buffer space,
yes,
because I know in our last little meeting, like we talked about like self-care and prioritizing that and getting that scheduled into your day.
yes, yeah,
So I think also as far as with self-care and saying no
hmm,
and time management
hmm,
is to make sure, like, let's say you do have a meeting or something, that you do have that buffer time. And that
yeah,
buffer time could just be 10, 15 minutes just to,
mhm,
drink your coffee and just have that little
right,
whoosah
yes,
moment, you know?
yes, yeah,
So and then it's like, do I say yes and compromise my self-care time?
hmm,
So it's like really thinking and trying to focus on like what is actually important, because like you said about the buffet, that just get a second plate, like,
hmm,
and no isn't something that can be forever, It's
Mhm.
just okay, well, I can't do this and someone else can help you, or I can't do this and maybe I can do it the next day or next
Mhm.
week, in case you need it. So I really like that analogy also.
Yeah. 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 That like it was totally really my mind was blown because I was like, of course I could have a second plate. Yeah. And even like, I mean, keeping with a buffet analogy, like, going back up to the table a second time, like once you're done with this, then you can go back, and fill up your plate again. Um,
Yeah.
those opportunities are going to continue to be there, and even if you feel like one opportunity has gone, another opportunity is going to come, and it might be a better opportunity because you didn't pick up from that first one that might
Yes.
be exactly right. Um and and yeah, with self-care, like being able to say no and setting that as a boundary and putting it in your time and managing that time and keeping that as your time and putting a big fence around it and saying,
Hmm.
like, this is my time, whether it is like 5-10 minutes just to have a coffee, or you know actually, so don't tell my kids, but actually do that, like if I've gone somewhere, and before, like, and the kids are in the house, before I go in the house, I'll take like 5 minutes and I'll just sit in the car. Sometimes I'll just like stare out the window. Maybe I'll play on my phone, like whatever it is. But that's like my 5 minutes of me time before I transition from whatever I was doing before to
Hmm.
going into the house with them. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, because I do like, it's like that transition time, and it is very like my husband will come out and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "You could just move back. This is my time. Like, don't mess it up. I'll be out in 5 minutes. Just give me a space."
Yeah.
Um, you
And
know.
so I wanted to talk about what you said about saying no and other opportunities.
Mhm.
So Chadwick Boseman was
Yes,
giving a speech,
I love him.
and in his speech, I found it very, very motivational. So
Mhm.
in his early acting days, he was getting several roles,
Mhm.
and a lot of the roles was depicting African Americans as drug dealers, thugs, and that's not what he wanted to do. So he was saying no to them, and every time, like he said no, people would say like, you can't just say no. You're in the beginning of your acting career. You need to take whatever comes at you,
Mhm.
and he said, that's not who I am. That doesn't represent me. And that's not what I want to portray,
Mhm.
on screen.
Mhm.
And with him saying no, all the other opportunities came up for him that he wanted to do. And it was better for him. And it portrayed him as a king, of Wakanda. So
Right.
there's, even though like, it may feel a certain way to say no, just know that that no can means better opportunities in the future. Like you might not see it now,
Mhm.
and but in the future, like you don't know what's going to happen. And just to think, if he would have said yes to those roles in the beginning, and I think a lot of time in acting, like your early roles is how everyone sees you from now on.
Exactly.
And I don't think he would have got the opportunities that he
Mhm.
has gotten, you know. So there is power in saying no, and there's truth in the realization that something better will come along in the future. If
Mhm.
you stay true to yourself and true to your beliefs, and you do like take care of yourself and you prioritize yourself to make
Mhm.
sure, is this good for me mentally, physically, emotionally,
Mhm.
and professionally,
Yeah.
So there is some really good power with the no, and there could be better opportunities that will arise from it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I do think that like that feeling of FOMO, that fear of missing out, I mean, it is it is a definite fear, it's an anxiety I think that a lot of people, a lot of women have. Um, but that, yeah, like if if we say no to one thing, something else is always going to come up after, and that might be something that's so much better for us. Um, and really, and I think that story about Chadwick Boseman is so powerful
It
because
is.
here was a man who knew, that this is my goal, like I don't want to be stereotyped as a thug or whatever in these in these roles. I'm going to hold out for things that I know is in line with how I see myself and how I want my career to go.
Yeah.
um that is so powerful. That's something that I would want our clients to be able to feel,
Yes,
to be able to
exactly.
feel comfortable saying no and owning that power for themselves, um because I know when people have said no to me, I'm like, oh wow, like, how do they have that nerve, that confidence to say
Yeah.
no to someone? And after I'm over my initial shock, I'm like, wow, like I just that's what I want. I want to be able
Yeah.
for people to say, wow, like that's pretty amazing that she, isn't just saying yes to every single thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And then also like a job interview. You
mhm,
go there and you get the letter of notification, or they tell you
mhm,
to your face, well, you're not what we want.
uh-huh.
Um, and receiving no also is important,
Mhm,
because when someone says no to you,
mhm.
you shouldn't take it personal,
Right,
and
right.
then you should grow from it.
Yeah.
So, like job interviews, like they say, no, you're not
Mhm,
what we want. What you should do is you should take notes, and you should say, well, this is what I need to do better. This is what I should add to my resume. This is the courses that I should be able to take.
mhm,
And I'm going to tackle this again, or I'm
mhm,
going to go after another job. And receiving no is
mhm.
just as powerful and important as saying no as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yes, because like if you know that for yourself when you say no to someone else, it's not about them. It is really about you.
Yeah.
And the same is true for when other people say no to you, and that it can be a learning experience. Well, okay,
Yeah.
how come they said no? Was it something, is there something that I can do better? But sometimes there's nothing you could do better.
Exactly.
Them, they have other stuff going on, and they can't accommodate what it is that you need right now. And that's okay,
It
knowing that
is.
everyone, we're all on that same boat in terms of, we only have a finite amount of time, a finite amount of energy, and we have to decide where we're going to allocate that time and energy to. um,
Exactly.
and that's okay because we do not want to be burning out. We don't want
Yeah.
to, start feeling physically sick and ill, or, like sleeping too much, or, feeling more anxiety,
Yes.
more depressed because we're feeling overwhelmed and we're feeling like we're too, we have, we're, we're feeling stressed. We have too much on our plates. We need to be able
Yes.
to say, I need to get my other plate, or I need to get my purse and just put some of this, this buffet food in my purse and then
Yeah.
save it for later. That's like my auntie.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
yeah.
I would love to hear from other people who are watching our video, whether now or later, like how have they said no, and what has worked for them? And maybe if they have
Yeah.
had experiences that hasn't worked for them, I'd love to hear about those also, and then maybe we could have like a conversation with, thinking about what can be done better for next time, or how to feel more comfortable about saying no. um,
Yeah.
Setting those boundaries. I mean, we've been talking about self-care. We have our self-care Sundays. um,
Mhm.
that's something that, yeah. And like I know we've been posting stuff, like sometimes we get like a lot of responses and sometimes you don't get any responses, and I just like to think to myself like, oh, maybe they're all practicing self-care and they're not being on Facebook, and they're doing something else fun outside with their kids. And
Yeah.
then it makes me feel better instead of thinking like, oh my God, no one likes us. No one wants to talk in our group. It's
I know. I like to think of it as is sometimes, sometimes when you're asked a question
Mhm.
you've never been asked before, it's kind of hard to respond, or you might be embarrassed to respond to
Mhm.
it, because you might feel like you're the only one that feels this way, or you're the only one thinking
Mhm.
this way. So that's how I see it when, if I post like a question out, because I
Mhm.
do ask some pretty intense questions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but that's also part of growth, right?
It
And
is.
And I think, I mean, bravery definitely has a lot to do with what we're talking about, right? We need to be able to be brave enough to take that next step to saying no. We need to be brave enough to say, okay, this is my time, and I'm gonna guard it. We need to be brave enough to feel vulnerable in front of other people and saying, all right, yeah, this isn't working. Like, what could I do? Yeah, oh gosh, or like, oh, that really, yeah, that really has made me think about something that I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah.
And that there isn't going to be any growth or any change unless we're brave enough to say yes to that growth and change. And in order to say yes, then we might need to say no to some of the other things. We need to say no
Yeah.
to staying stuck. We need to say no to being comfortable. We need to say no to just, doing what we've always done because that's how we've always done it. You
Yeah.
know,
But
that
again, like with saying no, there's also um, accepting that, and not feeling the guilt. And, you know, sometimes when you say no, there are consequences, you know,
mm-hmm.
to those saying no. So I'm not saying like every no, you're like, yes, I said no.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
but then it's a matter of, dealing with the consequences afterwards as well. And accepting and receiving no's as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that, like, um, let's say, I'm just giving an example. If
Mm-hmm.
you're sexually harassed by your boss,
Mm-hmm.
and you tell him no,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, you feel good about your no.
Mm-hmm.
You feel really good. But then whatever consequences come afterwards, you just have to be willing to stay true to your no as well, and
Mm-hmm.
not feel the guilt or anxiety that comes with you feeling powerful and saying no. So there's also that, staying firm with
Mm-hmm.
your no, and being able to follow through with your no, whatever that no shall be,
Mm-hmm.
and no matter what the circumstances is,
Mm-hmm.
or will be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, accepting it, your no, being able to say no, and being able to receive the no as well
Mm-hmm.
is important. No is two letters, but
Yeah.
it's so powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And it makes me like think back to why is that oftentimes the first word that our children learn? Like why?
Because they hear
Why?
it.
Yes, yes, but then they hear it and then they know how to use it, and I
Yeah.
think that does speak to that power, that sense of being independent, of being who you are, and no one knows who they are like a 2-year old.
Yeah.
No one knows who they are like a toddler. No one knows exactly what they want and how they want it. And, like a
Exactly.
toddler, and that's definitely something that I think as an adult, like I would love to feel that way, you know? So practicing the no and like I said, being able to give out the no as well as receive no's is really important, and it's
Yeah.
also like you're also talking about feelings, like it is okay to feel sad when you have to say no. And you could say that to someone. You could say, oh my gosh, like I am so sorry. Like I would really love to do this for you, but I don't have the time right now, or
Exactly.
I don't think I'm the right person for this. Let me introduce you to someone who could be the right person,
Yeah.
and that's all okay. We're not going to be happy and everything's going great in our lives all the time.
Exactly.
And that's just part of life. That's the reality of life. um
Yeah. But
yeah.
then also, to get help,
Hmm.
if you are having a hard time saying no, it's okay to get help to get that power back, and to learn, how you can prioritize your life, and how you can better manage things and the things that are going on, so that way you can confidently say no. I generally cannot help you, but you can do
Mm.
X, Y, and Z, or, just, it's okay to, like, just ask for help or to find help.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Help and practice will definitely help it be easier. So I am looking at our time, and in the interest of boundaries and saying
Yes.
no, actually my doctor's appointment.
La 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 la. No, I'm playing.
Accept my no. but yeah, but this has been a great conversation, and I do hope that other people from our group, or if they're if they're watching it, like, to please comment and let us know what your thoughts are. Do you
Yeah,
like saying no? Some people love saying no. What's been hard about it? What's been easy about it? What has been a yes because you said a no?
exactly.
Love to hear from people like that. So
Same here.
yes, yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank
Again,
you.
comment
Yes,
below.
yes,
Let
yeah.
us know what you're thinking, how you feel about this topic, and we will talk to you later.
Yeah. See you in like 2 weeks.